Afternoon. How we doing?
How are you doing?
Good. Great.
Mike Vrabel was talking this week about how you and Ashton Grant have different purposes for Drake. Curious how you would break down those two different purposes.
I'm not sure exactly what the context of the. Could you tell me what the context of the conversation was? I'm not exactly sure.
I think he was just saying that you guys play different roles in his development. Maybe?
Oh yeah. I mean, Ashton's a really bright young coach who does a great job of, a lot of little details, a lot of things that really help bring the game plan to life. All of our study preparations, our cut-ups, coverage details, individual technique drills, a lot of little things that are, they're big for the quarterback, and so Ashton does a tremendous job of putting all those together every week. And when he has individual time with the QBs, it's always productive because he's either helping them improve something technically or fundamentally at that position, or helping us get closer to really understanding the opponent that we're getting ready to play, et cetera. And so, and then, like I said, sometimes my time is a little bit more big picture and, global with the offense and the installation and all that stuff. So I'm not 100% sure if that is what he was referring to, but I'm assuming that's in that ballpark. But no, Ashton does a tremendous job with those guys. I have a lot of confidence in everything he does.
Josh, as you've been getting to know them over time, what have you liked maybe more each and every week about the wide receiver group that you have?
There's a lot that I like about the receiver group. Start with their attitude and the way that they work. Very unselfish, and I think that's a position that's very hot and cold. It runs hot and cold, in practice. Sometimes it runs hot and cold in the games. You may have a practice where you catch 9 balls. You may have a practice where you catch none, and it's not your fault because it had nothing to do with you, and the coverage or what the play was dictated something else happened. And those guys have all really embraced, whatever their role is. They come to work every day, learn it, do it to the best of their ability. They really take coaching well. They got a great position coach who does extra with all of them. They ask for extra, meet extra, come in extra, so they're super well prepared. And then they all just, like I said, they have different versatile skill sets that you start to see unfold as the opportunities come their way. And I think the best thing is that they've all been ready to go when the ball has found them, and so they're all developing different chemistry with the quarterback. It's all positive. It's all good chemistry. And just love the way they approach each day. And then the last thing I'll say is they're out there every day. I mean, the best way for us to improve at any position is for the guys at that position to practice. And, I can't remember a practice rep that, Booty wasn't there, Hollins wasn't there, Pop wasn't there, Diggs wasn't there, Kyle wasn't there. They're all out there. And so that means that they're taking care of their body, they're doing extra work, to make sure that they're present and available for the team, which obviously goes a long way towards any position group or any group in general improving.
With Kyle. Coaching points on the back shoulder throw, dislocation, what you see.
Well, there's a lot of little things that go into that. I think, you have to have, certainly there's a trust and confidence between two people, and it depends on, there's a few different various types of those. If the defender is not looking, then I think that gives you the ability to do that. If he's staring at you, there's a whole different conversation. So I think there's a lot of things that go into that. Back shoulders are not called; they're reactionary play. So if you beat the guy on the go route, it's a go route. So two guys really doing a good job of being on the same page in the moment. They got to make a split-second decision about whether that is or isn't an opportunity for that. And then certainly ball placement and the reaction by the receiver has always been so important to that play being successful, because he has to feel it being a back shoulder, see the ball thrown as a back shoulder, and then do the hard thing, which is body, he's got to have body control, strong hands. Usually there's some kind of contact. You have a contested catch, and then finish the play. So I thought we've had a few this year, but I thought the one last week at the end of the game, was a great example of a lot of those things happening at the same time. And Kayshawn finished it, really, really well.
Josh, I know this changes week to week. You guys are intentional about the volume of motion you use and the timing in which you use it. You're second in the league right now by EPA per play when you use motion. So I'm curious what you see driving that, and if anything new about working with Todd or Thomas might be part of it.
I think motion is like I said, you're trying to find advantages at any point in time you can during the week of the game plan process. So if motion is one of those things that you feel like can either force the defense to adjust at the last second, or you can gain an advantage in terms of leverage, adjustment by the defense, softer coverage, whatever. They're trying to play man and run with you. I think there's a lot of reasons to use motion. A lot of times from week to week, those can change. And I think during the situations, it can change. You're trying to beat man, you're trying to beat zone, you're trying to create, some kind of an overload. But I think the guys that we have on the staff do a really good job of evaluating whether motion is a productive thing to consider or not. And I'd say that's the same thing in the running game. It's not just pass plays where motion can be advantageous to you. So I think the run guy, the offensive line guys are in tune with some of those things as well. Certainly Thomas, Todd. Our staff in general, I think, has embraced the hunt every week for an advantage. Whether that's use of personnel groupings, motions, formationing, tempo, whatever it is. They do a really good job of bringing those things to the table and, making them available to us, certainly if they think they can work.
Josh, how does the presence of Jeffrey Simmons challenge the offensive front this week, and what are how does that factor into what they do?
Yeah, this guy is one of the best players in the league, period. Just in general. You take all the positions and throw them into the same bucket. The number one thing that stands out to me with Simmons is how hard he plays on a snap-to-snap basis. And there's other great players that, there's a little bit of an ebb and a flow. And to this guy, there is none. It's all the time, full tilt, and he's out there almost every play. So it's not like you're saying, oh, well, he plays 50% of the snaps, and we got to be ready to go on those 50%. Oh, it's 90%. So he's out there all the time. He lines up across the front. There's a little bit of predictability at times based on the down and distance or what grouping they're in, but every one of our guys may have to block him at one time or another, which is a huge challenge as you get ready to play a game. It's not like, well, the right tackle's got to get ready for him, or the left guard. It's basically everybody across the front. So that presents a challenge in terms of time management and understanding the matchups and how he plays and all the rest of it. Very powerful, disruptive, really good teammate too, because he'll do some dirty work and help somebody else. So again, there's not enough superlatives to describe this guy in terms of how he plays and how effective he is. So challenge for us is certainly to try to limit how productive he is and hopefully limit the amount of negative big plays he makes in the game. And that's certainly going to go a long way to us staying ahead on the down and distance and avoiding long yardage situations, which brings a whole nother element of his game into play. So their defense on a whole, there's a challenge with scheme, certainly with the front in terms of finding him and identifying him. But then there's all types of various pressures that Denard brings into play, and you got to handle that too. So very opportunistic secondary, catch the ball when you make a mistake, a lot of eyes on the quarterback, a lot of zone coverage. So big challenge for us, different style of defense than last week. Certainly hard at work at getting to know him now.
What's your philosophy when Kyle Williams? How close do you feel like he might be to being a little more productive? It seems like you guys have been trying to work him in.
Yeah.
How close do you think he's getting?
Certainly. Well, I think some of that is the opportunities. What we've done is look at the things we're doing when the ball doesn't come to you. Are you doing the right things? And a lot of times he is. And, like I keep saying, I've said that I feel like I broke a record. The ball hasn't quite found him on certain things yet. But if it does, then I think then we'll see what that looks like, you know. So I think the fact that he continues to practice well, continues to have the ability to play at multiple positions, gives him the ability to be in the game. And we're not like, hey, put him in a position where he can't get it. You know what I mean? So he's in there running plays. You know, last week he subbed in for Diggs, he subbed in for Booty, he subbed in for the slot receiver. You know, so I think opportunities are there. He's present and available every day at practice. He's doing a really good job of understanding his assignments. And I think, like I've said about Pop and Kayshawn and Diggsy and different guys at different times, I think it'll find him. And we just got to continue to try to press forward on the process of doing the right thing. And I'm excited when he gets his opportunity. I really am. I'm looking forward to it.
When it comes to the pass protection stuff, just we've seen quite a bit of, backs chipping, tight ends staying in, moving pockets, things like that. Is that like a conscious effort to make it as easy on the offensive line as possible because they have such a tough job?
I mean, I think doing different things in general is probably a very good formula for anybody. You know, the guys up front on the defensive line get paid a lot of money. There's a lot of good ones, and we've played a lot of good ones, and we're playing, some more good ones this week. So I think sitting in one thing and saying, hey, this is what we're doing when we're in these formations, and that's all we're doing, can get very difficult, because people start to tee off on the things you're doing. So whether it's changing the timing of the passing game, changing the protection, adding a layer of assistance somewhere in the protection, moving the pocket, as you mentioned. I think all of those things go into trying to create a productive pass offense, so that you're giving them enough to think about where it's not the same every time. They're not getting blocked by the same people every time. And it gives the quarterback an opportunity to change the rhythm of the pass offense in general. So I've always believed in that. I think that helps everybody, not just one lineman or two linemen or the whole group. It's the entire passing offense, I think, gets assistance when you do that, and you can be productive doing those things. The most important thing when we do that is that the guys on the field execute, and when they've done a good job of that, we've had an opportunity to be productive in the pass game.
Josh, how have you seen Drake's his confidence grow, specifically on those longer throws?
He's been confident in those since I met him.
Thanks, Josh.
You got it. Thank you.